Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Chris Eubank and Conor Benn got into it earlier today. This was, yeah, well, they bumped into each other. Chris is fighting on the undercard of Bivol versus Beterbiev, and there was a big sort of, the weigh-in was that, it was all people were mingling, and I think Conor was being interviewed with Eddie Hearn by IFL TV, and Chris and his crew walked along, and then Conor walked up to him, started mouthing off, and Chris put a big smirk on his face and, a big grin. Didn't have much to say, really. Conor was effing and bleeding. Well, I wasn't swearing that much, but he called him an arrogant prick and, shoved him. And Chris was like, well, whatever. I think Chris said, look, yeah, you're having a go at me now because, I've just tried to make weight, which he had done. There's a time and a place for everything. And obviously that time and place, well, I don't know about the time, but the place would be a boxing ring. Conor, spitting nails like his old man used to. If you're the age I am, you will have followed Nigel Benn's career from start to finish. I remember watching him on undercards and stuff when he was coming up. And he always had that intensity, that raw, vicious intensity. Conor has similarities. I mean, I don't think he's got his old man's power, and he's a smaller man. Nigel was initially a middleweight, moved up to super middle and did most of his best work there, I suppose. But Conor's a smaller man, but he fancies jumping up 2 divisions to beat up Eubank. Okay, fair enough. That's no problem. Catchweight contest. And then he said, I'll come down at 147. And when he was being interviewed with Hearn by Kugan Cassius, he said Hearn did most of the talking like he always does because he's the promoter. And he said, Conor, that's one option, the Eubank fight. And they would make millions. I mean, I think they're talking about putting it on at Tottenham, are they? Like a stadium fight. And Hearn said, I'll do 1 million views, pay-per-views, and they'll make millions and so on and so forth. But it's not Conor's only option. And he mentioned, one of the people he mentioned was Boots Ennis. Now, God almighty, if Boots Ennis got his hands on Conor, God only knows what he'd do to him. That wouldn't be a stoppage. That would probably be Ennis being arrested for manslaughter. But Conor is fun to watch. And I think Eubank missed a trick. He could have just said to Conor something along the lines of, haven't you got a crate of eggs you should be eating, or, bye, go make some omelettes, or, taking the piss out of him, because of the whole PED thing. Chris didn't say anything. And Conor's like, I'm going to see you tomorrow. I'm going to be in the ring, jump in the ring. And that's if you beat Zeramata. And Eubank should beat Zeramata. But there is a slight caveat here, because Eubank don't forget, he fought at 168 for a couple of years. And now he's back down at 160. And at 35, you do have to wonder about his weight. Because let's not forget, 2 fights ago, he was knocked out by Liam Smith. And then he got his revenge in 9 rounds, which was twice as long as it took Smith to get rid of him. But, you've got to wonder about the weight. And how he replenishes his body overnight. And it does get more difficult as you get older. So Hearn insists that, what makes this a competitive fight is the fact that Eubank is a bigger man. He says Eubank doesn't do anything as well as Conor Benn does. Conor Benn is superior in every department, which I suppose could be true. And yes, but if you take away that weight advantage, if Eubank is drained down at 180 now, it's perfectly feasible that Conor coming up, even if he only weighs around 154, 155, yeah, he could do some damage to Eubank. It's not a foregone conclusion. But of course, it has been noticeable that in his last 2 fights, Conor has gone the distance against guys who are not really renowned punchers and didn't have particularly glossy records. They were decent enough opponents, maybe B- opponents, for a guy who's coming off that whole PED rigmarole. But the lack of power that had previously been displayed was absent, or conspicuous by its absence. So you can read into that whatever you wish. But yeah, this thing, they're going to try and build up this fight, aren't they? Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. I don't blame them. I've always thought it's a gimmick fight. Even 2.5 years ago, I thought it's a silly fight, just a gimmick fight. It's 2 names coming together to make a few quid. But you never know. Sometimes these things surprise us and they are entertaining. But I still think it's more of a gimmick fight. I really do. It's not as bad as something like Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. I mean, that really is beyond the pale. But it's still not. I would rather see Ben try and clean up at 147, and even if he was to fight someone like an Ennis and get chinned, I'd have more respect for that. The fact that he got in the ring with someone like Ennis, and then he's talking about getting Gervonta Davis to come up from lightweight. What is the point of that? I mean, that's this catchweight crap. I don't like it. I want, if you're in a division, mop it up, and then once you've mopped it up, move up like Crawford did, and Usyk, But anyway, what do you think? What do you think of Ben? What do you think of Eubank? How do you think that fight would go? Do you want to see it? Are you interested, or are you just not fussed? I know there's mixed opinions on this, so leave your comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you could do that, that'd be great. And hit the like button as well. It helps us out, and it costs you nothing. It's free. It takes a second. Good stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and bye for now.